My dear friends, there comes a time in every woman's life when everything seems silent, when prayers feel unanswered, when her efforts seem unseen, when people misunderstand her silence for weakness and her kindness for naivety. But what she doesn't realize in that very moment is that God is preparing her for something extraordinary. You see, when God is about to bless a woman, He first rearranges her world. He removes the people who no longer align with her purpose. He closes doors she never imagined would shut, and He brings her to a place of solitude, not to punish her, but to prepare her, because before every blessing, there's a breaking. Before every crown, there's a cross. Before every victory, there's a valley. Let me share a small story. There was once a woman who used to pray every morning, "God, please give me strength." But every day, she faced more problems, more pressure, more pain. One day, she broke down and said, "Lord, I asked for strength, not struggle." And in that gentle whisper that only faith can hear, God said, "My child, strength doesn't come without struggle. You are not being punished, you are being prepared." So, when a woman is being tested, it's often a sign that heaven is getting ready to promote her. When she feels like she's losing everything, God is often shifting her into the season where she'll gain everything that truly matters. He takes away temporary things to make space for eternal ones. He removes the ones who drain her peace to bring the one who values her heart. He delays her dreams not to deny her, but to design something even better. When God prepares a woman for her next season, He doesn't hand her blessings wrapped in ribbons. He hands her lessons wrapped in challenges. He doesn't simply give her what she prayed for. He builds her into the kind of woman who can sustain what she prayed for. Preparation before promotion is one of God's most beautiful, yet most misunderstood processes. A woman may think everything around her is falling apart, but in truth, everything is quietly falling into place. When a woman is about to be promoted by life, she first experiences discomfort. That discomfort is not a mistake, it's movement. Think of a seed buried deep within the soil. The seed doesn't know it's being planted. It feels like it's being buried. But the darkness of the soil, the pressure of the earth, and the weight of the dirt above are all part of its preparation to rise. Likewise, when God prepares a woman for a greater purpose, He allows her to face moments where she feels hidden, forgotten, and pressed from every side. Yet that very pressure is producing something powerful within her. In daily life, this preparation often looks like loss. Maybe she loses a friend she thought would stay forever, or a job she believed defined her identity. Maybe the relationship she invested her whole heart in begins to crumble. And in those quiet tears at night, she wonders, why is this happening to me? What she doesn't realize is that God is not taking away. He's making room. He's clearing the clutter of her life so that when the blessing arrives, she has space to receive it fully. Have you noticed how a sculptor works on a piece of stone? At first it looks rough, formless, even useless. But with every strike of the hammer, every chip that falls away, something beautiful begins to emerge. The stone doesn't complain, but if it could speak, it might say, "Why are you hurting me?" And the sculptor would smile and whisper, "I'm not hurting you, I'm revealing you." In the same way, God uses life's blows to carve away the parts that no longer serve a woman's purpose. Her doubts, her fears, her need for approval. Every disappointment removes a layer that hides her true strength. Sometimes, preparation feels like isolation. A woman may find herself walking alone for a while, not because she's unworthy of company, but because God wants her to hear His voice without the noise of others. In solitude, she learns to stand on her own 2 feet, to draw her confidence not from compliments but from her Creator. When she stops running after people who don't value her, she begins to attract what truly belongs to her. And that, my friends, is divine alignment. Preparation also teaches patience. There's a reason flowers don't bloom all year. They bloom in their season. And if you pluck them too early, they never reach their full beauty. Similarly, when a woman learns to trust God's timing, she begins to see that delays are not denials. The world might rush her, but heaven never will. Every blessing has a divine schedule, and her role is not to panic, it's to prepare. Because when the moment arrives, she must be ready. Think of the story of a woman who dreamed of starting her own business. For years, everything went wrong. Investors withdrew, plans failed, people doubted her. But she kept learning, kept growing, and kept refining her ideas. One day, an opportunity opened, something she could never have handled years earlier. But now, after all the failure, she had wisdom, resilience, and faith. Her preparation had become her qualification. If God had given her the blessing too soon, she would not have been able to handle it. But when it came, she was strong enough to sustain it. Preparation before promotion is not only about external success, it's about internal growth. It's about transforming a woman's mindset from fear to faith, from doubt to determination, from weakness to wisdom. It's about teaching her to see rejection as redirection and loss as learning. God prepares her heart before He expands her horizon. He teaches her humility before giving her honor, and compassion before giving her influence. Because the weight of blessings can only rest on the shoulders that have been strengthened by trials. In everyday life, this could mean learning to control her reactions. When someone disrespects her, instead of reacting in anger, she chooses grace. When a door closes, she doesn't break down, she bows down in prayer. These small acts of emotional maturity are part of divine preparation. The woman who can stay calm in chaos is the woman God can trust with bigger responsibilities. Every strong woman you see today was once a woman who felt weak but refused to quit. She learned through tears what no book could teach her. She learned that God doesn't always calm the storm. Sometimes He calms her in the storm, and that calm becomes her strength. So, when you see a woman going through tough times, when life seems to be stripping her of everything, remember this: she's not losing, she's learning. She's not being punished, she's being polished. Because God doesn't promote the unprepared. Before He elevates her, He educates her. Before He gives her a platform, He builds her character. Before He places her in front of others, He prepares her heart in private. And one day, when that woman steps into her blessing, she will understand every single delay, every disappointment, and every tear. She'll look back and smile, realizing that the dark places were not graves, they were gardens. That the isolation was not punishment, it was protection. That the waiting wasn't wasted, it was working for her. Because when God is about to bless a woman, He doesn't rush the process. He refines her with care. And when she finally rises, she won't just be ready for her blessing, she will become the blessing. Pain is not punishment. It is one of life's most misunderstood gifts, wrapped in layers of lessons that are often hard to see when tears blur the vision. When a woman goes through pain, her first instinct is to wonder what she did wrong. She questions herself, her choices, even her faith. But in truth, pain is not God's way of rejecting her, it's His way of refining her. It's His gentle but powerful method of shaping her into the woman she was always meant to become. Every woman, at some point in her life, goes through seasons where nothing makes sense. Maybe she gave her best to someone who didn't value her. Maybe she poured her love, time, and effort into a relationship, a dream, or a job that ended in heartbreak. And in those quiet nights, when her pillow becomes her only listener, she wonders why she had to go through all this. But what she doesn't realize in that moment is that pain is not there to destroy her, it's there to develop her. If we look at nature, even the most beautiful creations are born out of discomfort. The pearl, for instance, is formed when a small grain of sand irritates the oyster. Instead of rejecting the irritation, the oyster works on it, coating it again and again until it transforms that pain into something precious. Similarly, when life places irritation, disappointment, or hurt in a woman's heart, she has two choices: to complain about it or to create something beautiful from it. Many women believe pain means they are being punished. But think of gold. It only becomes pure when it passes through fire. The heat doesn't destroy the gold, it removes what is impure. The same is true for the human heart. God allows pain not to harm a woman, but to purify her spirit, to remove bitterness, pride, or attachments that block her growth. Every tear, every heartbreak, every unanswered prayer is not cruelty, it's construction. Imagine a woman who loses her job unexpectedly. At first, she feels rejected and worthless. She blames herself and wonders what she did wrong. But as days pass, she discovers strengths she never knew she had. She starts something small from her kitchen, maybe baking, painting, or writing, and before long, that becomes her passion, her purpose, her blessing in disguise. What she thought was punishment was actually preparation for a better direction. That is how God works, through contrasts. He allows pain to teach empathy. He allows loss to teach gratitude. He allows heartbreak to teach strength. Without sorrow, how would we recognize joy? Without darkness, how would we value light? A woman who has walked through fire appreciates every calm breeze because she knows the weight of the storm. In daily life, pain transforms the way we see people and situations. A woman who has been betrayed learns to value honesty more deeply. One who has faced failure learns to celebrate small victories. One who has cried in silence learns to listen to others' tears. Pain turns arrogance into humility, noise into silence, and fear into faith. It humbles the ego and lifts the spirit. Sometimes, pain teaches what peace never could. When everything is going well, we rarely pause to reflect or grow. But when life shakes us, we are forced to look inward to ask deeper questions. Pain forces stillness, and in that stillness, we meet the parts of ourselves we've been avoiding. We begin to heal from patterns, from wounds, from people we never thought we could let go of. Think of a butterfly. Before it spreads its wings, it must struggle to break free from its cocoon. That painful process of pushing against the walls builds the strength it needs to fly. If someone tried to help it by tearing the cocoon open, the butterfly would never develop the power to soar. In the same way, every woman's struggle serves a sacred purpose. Without the pain of breaking free, she would never learn the strength of her wings. Pain also reveals who truly cares. In moments of suffering, false friends fade and real ones remain. The woman who once surrounded herself with noise learns the beauty of quiet companionship, the kind that doesn't need words, just presence. Pain refines her circle as much as it refines her soul. But the most beautiful thing about pain is that it creates compassion. A woman who has known heartbreak will never make fun of someone else's tears. A woman who has struggled financially will always help someone in need. Pain softens the heart while strengthening the spirit. It transforms her into someone who not only survives but also heals others by sharing her story. Let's not forget that even flowers grow through dirt. The same rain that ruins plants also nourishes seeds. Life works in dualities. The pain that feels unbearable today often becomes the story that inspires others tomorrow. Many women who lead with grace today have cried behind closed doors in their past. Their glow is not because they had it easy, it's because they kept their faith through the pain. So, the next time a woman feels broken, she must remember, broken crayons still color beautifully. The cracks in her heart are not signs of weakness, they are openings where the light enters. Pain may bend her, but it will never break her if she learns to see its purpose. And one day, when she looks back, she'll thank God not only for the blessings, but also for the burdens. Because it was the pain that taught her patience. It was the heartbreak that taught her boundaries. It was the loss that taught her to find herself. Pain is not punishment, it is the proof that she's growing. God loves her too much to let her remain small. Every struggle is a signal that something inside her is expanding. When she walks through fire with faith, she emerges not burned, but refined, radiant, and ready. The woman who once thought she was being punished will one day realize she was being prepared, and that realization will turn every scar into a symbol of grace, every tear into a seed of strength, and every painful ending into the beginning of something divine. Faith over fear. These three simple words can transform the entire direction of a woman's life. Faith is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. Every woman who has ever dreamed big, loved deeply, or walked through pain knows how fear tries to whisper, "You can't," yet faith softly replies, "Watch me." Fear looks at the storm, but faith looks at the one who can calm it. There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain. Maybe it's waiting for a job opportunity, facing the end of a relationship, or walking into a future that feels foggy and unpredictable. Fear grips the heart and makes her question herself. What if I fail? What if I get hurt again? What if I'm not enough? These questions are heavy, but they all have one answer: faith. Because faith doesn't always give explanations, it gives peace in the middle of confusion. When a woman chooses faith over fear, she is not pretending that everything is fine. She is choosing to believe that even in the mess, something meaningful is being written. Fear says, look at the size of your problem. Faith says, look at the power of your God. In everyday life, faith can look very ordinary. It's the single mother who wakes up every morning, tired but hopeful, trusting that somehow she will provide for her children. It's the young woman starting a business with no guarantee of success, but a heart full of passion. It's the woman healing from heartbreak who still believes in love, not because it's easy, but because she knows her heart was made to feel deeply. Faith doesn't shout, it whispers, keep going. Fear paralyzes, but faith propels. Fear builds walls, faith builds wings. The moment a woman chooses to trust that everything is happening for her growth, she starts to shift from anxiety to alignment. It's not about having all the answers. It's about trusting the process when the answers are not clear. Think about how a farmer works. He plants seeds and waits. He cannot see what's happening underground. He just trusts that something invisible is growing. That's faith. The same way, when a woman plants prayers into the soil of life, she may not see immediate results, but something beautiful is taking root in the unseen. Fear says, what if nothing grows? Faith says, something already is. One of the most powerful transformations happens when a woman learns to walk through fear with faith as her compass. Fear might still whisper, but faith becomes louder. When fear says, you're not ready, faith says, God will equip you. When fear says, you'll fail, faith says, every failure will teach you something. When fear says, you're alone, faith reminds her, you never walk alone. In daily struggles, choosing faith doesn't mean the situation changes overnight. It means she changes. Her mindset, her energy, her peace, her courage all begin to shift. Faith gives her the strength to face things she thought would break her. It gives her the ability to stand in storms and still smile because she knows that even the thunder is part of a bigger plan. There's a beautiful story of a woman who was afraid to leave her comfort zone. She stayed in the same job, same place, same routine, even though her heart longed for more. One day everything changed. She lost her job. At first, she was devastated, but slowly, she began to follow the small nudges in her heart. She started something new, something that scared her at first but excited her soul. Months later, she realized that losing that job was not the end. It was the beginning. What she thought was fear's victory was actually faith's invitation. Faith over fear doesn't mean the road will be easy. It means that when the road feels dark, you trust that there's light ahead, even if you can't see it yet. It's the quiet strength to take one more step when your legs are trembling. It's the voice inside that says, even if I don't understand, I'll still believe. A fear thrives on control. It needs certainty to survive. Faith, on the other hand, lives in surrender. It says, I don't need to know how it will happen. That surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's realizing that there's a power greater than our plans, guiding every step, even when the path feels hidden. Look at the sunrise. No one stays awake all night worrying if the sun will rise. It always does. That's the beauty of faith. When a woman truly understands that same certainty exists in her life, that light always follows darkness, she no longer panics in the night. She learns to rest even in uncertainty because her heart knows that dawn is inevitable. Sometimes faith feels like standing on the edge of a cliff, not knowing what's below, but trusting that you'll either learn to fly or God will catch you. And when you take that leap, something magical happens. You realize you were never falling, you were rising all along. The beauty of faith is that it doesn't depend on circumstances. Even in moments of loss, faith whispers that something better is coming. Even in heartbreak, it assures her that love will find her again. Even in confusion, it reminds her that clarity will return. Fear looks for evidence, faith looks for meaning. Fear waits for proof, faith creates possibilities. Every woman who has chosen faith over fear carries an invisible glow. It's not just confidence, it's calmness. She walks differently, talks differently, and loves differently because she knows she's guided. The storms that once terrified her no longer control her, they now teach her. And someday, when she looks back, she will see that every fearful moment was just a shadow that faith turned into light. Every "I can't" became "I did." Every uncertain step became the foundation of her strength. Faith over fear is not a one-time decision. It's a daily choice. A choice to trust when nothing makes sense. A choice to believe that every closed door is redirection. A choice to surrender the struggle and embrace the process. Because when a woman chooses faith over fear, she becomes unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because she becomes unshakable. She no longer walks by sight, but by trust. And in that trust, she discovers that what she feared losing was never greater than what she was about to gain. That's the quiet power of faith. It turns trembling hearts into courageous souls and ordinary moments into extraordinary miracles. Silence is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form. When a woman begins to embrace silence, it does not mean she has run out of words. It means she has started to understand their value. Silence is where wisdom breathes. It is the sacred space between chaos and clarity, where God speaks the loudest. When a woman learns to be silent, she is not suppressing her voice, she is tuning it to a higher frequency. She learns that she doesn't have to respond to every noise, justify every action, or explain her peace. True power lies not in what she says, but in what she no longer feels the need to say. In everyday life, silence becomes a sanctuary. A woman who once used to rush into arguments now chooses stillness. When someone tries to provoke her, she smiles instead of reacting, not because she doesn't care, but because she's realized that peace is more precious than proving a point. She understands that silence doesn't mean defeat. It means discipline. She no longer wastes energy explaining herself to those committed to misunderstanding her. She saves her energy for her growth, her dreams, her calling. There's a special kind of glow in a woman who has learned the power of silence. Her calmness speaks volumes. Her eyes reflect depth. Her smile holds stories. She doesn't need to shout to be heard because her presence itself becomes her message. Silence teaches her that not every battle deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves attention, and not every moment requires reaction. Think of nature. The trees do not speak, yet they inspire peace. The ocean doesn't shout, yet it carries unimaginable strength. The sun rises silently, but it lights up the world. The same is true for a woman's soul. Her silence can be a sunrise in a noisy world, a gentle reminder that peace is power, Sometimes God quiets a woman's life, not to punish her, but to prepare her. He takes away noise so she can hear His whispers. When life suddenly slows down, when people leave, when things become still, she might feel lonely. But that's often the moment heaven is building something within her. In silence, she begins to hear her intuition more clearly. She starts recognizing what feels right and what doesn't. She learns to trust her inner voice, the voice that doesn't shout but always knows the truth. There was once a woman who used to argue about everything. She wanted everyone to understand her side, her feelings, her heart. But no matter how much she explained, people misunderstood her. One day she grew tired, not out of anger, but out of awareness. She realized that peace cannot coexist with the need to prove herself. From that day, she stopped explaining. She stopped chasing closure from people who thrived on chaos. Instead, she began spending her time reading, walking in nature, praying, reflecting. She learned to pour her words into her dreams instead of arguments. And soon, her silence started speaking louder than any words ever could. Silence is not emptiness, it is the space where strength is born. It teaches patience, observation, and restraint. A woman who practices silence becomes more thoughtful in her actions. She starts to see beyond surface reactions and begins to understand people's pain rather than judging their behavior. When she listens instead of interrupting, she discovers what others truly mean. When she pauses before reacting, she prevents herself from making decisions she might regret. In a world that rewards noise, choosing silence is an act of courage. Society tells women to speak louder, to prove, to fight, to compete. But sometimes, the bravest thing a woman can do is to be still, to choose not to argue, not to react, not to lower her peace to meet someone else's chaos. Silence is her quiet rebellion, her graceful boundary. It says, I know my worth, and I will not waste it in noise. Through silence, she begins to heal. Because healing rarely happens in crowded conversations. It happens in solitude, when she sits in her quiet moments, reflecting on her life. She begins to see patterns she missed before. She realizes which relationships were draining her and which ones nourished her. She recognizes how much energy she spent trying to be understood and how peaceful it feels to simply be. A woman who embraces silence walks with a calm confidence. She doesn't rush decisions. She lets life unfold. She doesn't demand attention. Her energy attracts it naturally. People are drawn to her because her silence feels safe. It's not cold, it's comforting. It's the kind of silence that doesn't demand anything but offers everything. Sometimes silence is a sign of maturity. It means she has learned that shouting doesn't change minds and arguing doesn't create peace. It means she has outgrown the need to control outcomes. She lets things be, knowing that what's meant for her will always find her, quietly, gently, beautifully. In daily life, silence can be as simple as taking a deep breath before responding to a hurtful message. It can be walking away from gossip, choosing not to engage in negativity, or spending time alone to recharge. It's in those moments that her strength rebuilds itself. She becomes less reactive, more reflective, less demanding, more discerning. And when a woman reaches that place of inner stillness, something magical happens. God begins to move in her life in ways she never expected. Because when her world becomes quiet, she can finally hear divine direction. The answers she once chased in noise start to appear effortlessly. The people who belong in her life come naturally. Opportunities align. Peace returns. Her silence becomes her superpower. It doesn't mean she has nothing to say. It means she has learned to say only what matters. She has learned that peace of mind is worth more than being right, and inner harmony is worth more than outer validation. One day, she will look back and realize that her silence was not empty. It was sacred. It was the period between her old life and her new one, the quiet before the breakthrough. And in that silence, she didn't lose herself, she found herself. She found her worth, her wisdom, and her connection to something higher. That is the kind of silence that changes everything. The silence that doesn't break her, but builds her. The silence that doesn't hide her voice, but helps her discover its true sound. The silence that doesn't make her smaller, but makes her unstoppable. Letting go is not losing, it's choosing peace over pain, freedom over fear, and growth over grasping. When a woman learns the art of letting go, she discovers that not everything that leaves her life is a loss. Sometimes, it's divine protection. God often removes what we think we need so that He can give us what we truly deserve. But the human heart clings. It clings to memories, to people, to plans that no longer serve the soul. Letting go feels like tearing away a part of yourself, but in truth, it is making space for something greater. In life, we all hold on to things we should release. A friendship that drains us, a love that no longer loves us, a past that weighs heavy on our present. We do it out of habit, out of hope, or out of fear of the unknown. But letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to hold forever. It means trusting that endings are not the opposite of beginnings. They are often the doorway to them. There was once a woman who loved deeply, so deeply that she forgot to love herself. She stayed in relationships long after they stopped growing. She tolerated words that dimmed her light because she feared loneliness more than unhappiness. But one day, she realized that clinging to what hurts is more painful than walking away. With trembling hands, she chose to let go, not out of anger but out of acceptance. She stopped chasing closure and started creating peace. At first, it felt like breaking, but over time it became her becoming. Letting go is not an event, it's a process. It doesn't happen in a single decision, but in small daily choices. It's the choice to stop checking who no longer calls, to stop reopening old wounds, to stop rehearsing old conversations that never went your way. It's the courage to wake up and say, "Today I choose myself." Each time she chooses that, she takes back a little piece of her power. Think of a tree in autumn. When its leaves turn golden and fall, it doesn't panic. It doesn't try to hold on to them, even though they were once part of its beauty. It lets them go gracefully, knowing that new leaves will grow when the season changes. The tree trusts the rhythm of life. The same is true for a woman's journey. Seasons change, people change, and she must trust that just as trees never fear losing their leaves, she need not fear releasing what no longer belongs. Letting go also means forgiving, sometimes others, sometimes herself. Forgiving not because they deserve it, but because she deserves peace. Carrying bitterness is like holding fire. It burns only the one who refuses to release it. A woman who forgives frees herself. She stops replaying the story of pain and starts rewriting the story of healing. In daily life, letting go might look like simple things: deleting messages that reopen old emotions, walking away from a toxic friendship, releasing guilt about things that can't be changed, or accepting that certain dreams didn't unfold the way she imagined. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. She's learning that not every connection is meant to be permanent. Some people are lessons, not lifelong companions. There's a gentle beauty in surrender. When she stops forcing things to happen her way, life begins to unfold in its own divine timing. The doors that close are replaced by ones she never expected. The people who walk away make room for those who truly see her. The plans that fall apart make way for miracles that fit her better. Letting go, then, is not about giving up, it's about giving in to something higher. Sometimes, letting go is simply allowing herself to be okay with not knowing what's next. It's sitting in uncertainty and trusting that even if she can't see the road, God already knows the destination. It's accepting that control is an illusion and peace is found in surrender. She stops asking, "Why did this happen?" and begins saying, "Thank you for what this will teach me." Letting go is also an act of faith. It's believing that what is meant for her will never pass her by. It's believing that if something or someone left, it's because their part in her story was complete. It's trusting that new chapters cannot begin while old ones are still being reread. And so, she closes the book, not because she stops caring, but because she knows she can't heal in the same place she was broken. In the stillness of letting go, she finds strength she never knew she had. The weight that once held her down becomes the wings that lift her higher. Her tears water the soil of her new life. Her pain becomes purpose. She begins to realize that letting go doesn't mean she lost anything. It means she's finally light enough to rise. Every woman who learns to let go finds freedom in unexpected ways. She starts smiling more, sleeping better, and feeling lighter. The things that once consumed her no longer control her. The moments that once broke her now build her. She no longer begs for closure because her peace no longer depends on others. It depends on her. And one day, she looks back and realizes that the things she let go of were never hers to begin with. The relationship that ended taught her self-respect. The dream that didn't work out taught her resilience. The pain that once seemed unbearable taught her faith. Everything that left made space for what was meant to come. Letting go is an act of love. Love for herself, love for her future, love for her peace. It is the decision to no longer let her past define her worth or her direction. She learns to say goodbye with gratitude instead of grief, because she knows that every goodbye carries the seed of a new beginning. So, when God asks her to release something, she no longer clings in fear. She opens her hands and says, "If this is not meant for me, take it. And if it is, bring it back in your time." That surrender is her strength. That acceptance is her power. In the end, letting go doesn't just change her circumstances, it transforms her soul. She becomes softer but stronger, quieter but deeper, lighter but wiser. She learns that when she lets go of what is not meant for her, she doesn't lose, she returns to herself.